When ancient wisdom meets modern warfare, picture this. You're in a boardroom facing down a toxic colleague who's been undermining you for months. Or maybe you're dealing with a manipulative boss who thrives on psychological games. Perhaps it's that moment when your own anger threatens to consume everything you've worked for. These aren't ancient battlefields, but they're battles nonetheless. And the man who mastered them all, long before philosophy had a name for it, was Leonidas of Sparta. This isn't another motivational speech about thinking positive. This is about weaponizing principles that have survived over 2 millennia because they work. These 7 codes didn't just help 300 Spartans face impossible odds at Thermopylae. They can help you navigate the modern jungle where predators wear suits instead of armor. If this story inspired you, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and make sure to subscribe for more content like this. And hey, don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of wisdom and warrior spirit. Now, let's dive in. The making of an unbreakable mind. Long before Leonidas became the king who defied an empire, he was just another kid thrown into Sparta's brutal education system. The Agoge wasn't summer camp. It was a factory for forging mental steel. But here's what history books miss. Leonidas didn't just survive this system. He decoded it. He understood that the real enemy wasn't the Persian army waiting decades in the future. The real enemy was the voice in his head that whispered, "You're not enough." While other kids focused on physical strength, Leonidas studied something more valuable: human nature. He watched how fear moved through a crowd. He noticed how a single weak link could collapse an entire formation. He learned that victory wasn't about being the strongest, it was about being the most prepared, the most controlled, and the most strategically invisible until the moment you chose to strike. That's the foundation of what I call the Leonidas Code. 7 principles that transform ordinary people into forces of nature, not through aggression or dominance, but through something far more powerful: absolute self-mastery. The 3 pillars of presence. Before we dive into battlefield tactics, you need to understand something crucial. Most battles are won before they begin. They're won in the first 3 seconds of human contact, in how you carry yourself, in what your eyes communicate, in the invisible signals you broadcast that either invite attack or command respect. Leonidas understood this instinctively. He knew that a king who had to constantly prove his authority had already lost it. True power is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It simply exists, and everyone in the room feels it. Code number 1. Eyes that command respect. Your eyes are your first line of defense and your most powerful weapon. But most people get this completely wrong. They either stare too aggressively, which screams insecurity, or they look away too quickly, which broadcasts weakness. Leonidas found the sweet spot, the steady gaze. Here's how it works in practice. When someone speaks to you, you look directly at them, not through them, not around them, but at them. You don't squint like you're trying to intimidate. You don't widen your eyes like you're surprised. You simply maintain calm, confident contact that says, "I see you, I hear you, I'm not afraid of this interaction." This isn't about dominance games. It's about centered presence. When you master this, something interesting happens. People start treating you differently. Colleagues stop interrupting you mid-sentence. Strangers become more polite. Even aggressive personalities dial back their intensity around you. Why? Because predators instinctively avoid confident prey. Practice this everywhere. In meetings, at the grocery store, during difficult conversations. Make eye contact that's steady but not invasive. Present but not challenging. Within weeks, you'll notice the shift in how people respond to you. Code number 2, the physics of respect. Your body language is broadcasting messages 24/7, whether you're aware of it or not. Leonidas treated his posture like armor. Not flashy or showy, but functional and impenetrable. He understood that how you carry yourself determines how others carry themselves around you. The foundation is simple: shoulders back, spine straight, feet planted. But it goes deeper than that. It's about moving through space like you belong there, not rushing, not hesitating, but moving with purpose. When you walk into a room, you're not apologizing for your presence, you're simply present. Here's the key insight. Confident body language isn't just about looking good, it's neurological. When you stand tall and breathe deeply, your brain actually produces different chemicals. You think more clearly, you make better decisions, you respond instead of reacting. It's a feedback loop between your physical state and your mental state. Start paying attention to how you sit in meetings, how you stand in elevators, how you walk through crowded spaces. Are you shrinking? Are you taking up space like you have a right to be there? Small adjustments in posture create massive shifts in how others perceive and treat you. Code number 3, the strategic mindset. This might be the most sophisticated principle in the entire code. Leonidas approached every interaction with what modern game theory calls cooperative retaliation. In plain English, I'll be cool with you until you give me a reason not to be. And when that line gets crossed, the response is swift, measured, and final. Most people get this wrong in one of two ways. They're either pushovers who let people walk all over them, or they're constantly on the offensive, treating every interaction like a threat. Leonidas found the middle path. Assume good faith, but be ready to enforce boundaries the moment someone tests you. Here's how it plays out in real life. Someone makes a joke at your expense in a meeting. You don't ignore it, that's weakness. But you also don't explode, that's losing control. Instead, you address it calmly. That's interesting, John. What did you mean by that? Now he has to either clarify his intention or back down. Either way, you've established that you're not an easy target, but you've done it without creating unnecessary drama. This principle requires emotional intelligence and strategic thinking. You need to distinguish between genuine mistakes and deliberate provocations. You need to calibrate your responses based on context, relationship dynamics, and long-term consequences. Sometimes a raised eyebrow is enough. Sometimes you need to have a private conversation after the meeting. Occasionally, you need to make a public statement that establishes clear boundaries. The key is consistency. People need to know that crossing certain lines will result in predictable consequences, not because you're looking for fights, but because you respect yourself enough to protect your dignity and your peace of mind. This principle works in every context: relationships, workplace dynamics, even online interactions. You start from a position of respect and cooperation. But the moment someone crosses the line, you respond with precision. Not emotion, not escalation, just clear, decisive action. Then you go back to normal, as if nothing happened. The message this sends is powerful. I'm not looking for trouble, but I'm not afraid of it either. The inner fortress, mastering your internal world. Having presence is crucial, but it's not enough. If your emotions are chaotic, if you don't have solid relationships, if you're not continuously improving yourself, you're building a house on sand. Leonidas understood that external strength meant nothing without internal discipline. The next 3 codes focus on the invisible battles that determine the outcome of the visible ones. Code number 4, emotional sovereignty. Here's what separates warriors from victims. Warriors choose their emotional responses. They don't react, they respond. There's a crucial difference. Leonidas had zero tolerance for emotional volatility in himself or his men, not because emotions were wrong, but because uncontrolled emotions were tactical liabilities. When you lose your temper, you've just handed your opponent the keys to your psychology. They know exactly which buttons to push to make you malfunction. Think about the last time someone really got under your skin. Maybe they said something insulting. Maybe they questioned your competence. Maybe they dismissed something important to you. What happened? Did you respond with clarity and strength, or did you react with anger and defensiveness? The difference is everything. When you react emotionally, you're playing their game by their rules. When you respond strategically, you're playing your game. You stay calm, you assess the situation, and you choose your next move based on what serves your long-term interests, not what feels good in the moment. This doesn't mean becoming emotionally numb. It means becoming emotionally intelligent. You feel the anger, the frustration, the hurt, but you don't let those feelings drive the bus. You acknowledge them, learn from them, and then decide consciously how to proceed. Practice this daily. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when a colleague takes credit for your work, when your spouse says something that triggers you, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what response serves me best here? Then act from that place of choice, not impulse. Code number 5. Building your alliance network. No warrior fights alone. Leonidas knew that loyal allies were worth more than skilled soldiers. He invested in relationships long before he needed them, not through manipulation or politics, but through genuine value creation. Here's the principle: help first, benefit later. Be useful before you need help. Connect people with resources, share knowledge, solve problems, build a reputation as someone who makes other people's lives better. Do this consistently, without keeping score, and something powerful happens. You become indispensable. When crisis hits, and it always hits, you won't face it alone. You'll have a network of people who remember how you helped them when they needed it. They'll have your back, not because they owe you, but because they respect you. This is completely different from networking for networking's sake. It's about becoming the kind of person others want to support. Think about the people in your life who you drop everything to help. What qualities do they have? How do they treat others? How do they show up in relationships? Start there. Become that person for others and watch how your entire support system transforms. Code number 6, the daily discipline of excellence. Leonidas trained every day, even during peacetime, especially during peacetime. He understood that when the crisis arrives, preparation time is over. You fight with whatever skills you've developed in the quiet moments when nobody was watching. This principle is about continuous improvement in every area that matters: physical fitness, professional skills, emotional regulation, strategic thinking. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because excellence is a habit, not an event. Most people wait for motivation to strike. They'll start working out when they feel like it. They'll develop new skills when they have time. They'll work on their mindset when things get tough. Leonidas would have found this approach laughable. Warriors don't wait for perfect conditions. They create perfect preparation. What skills does your life require? What challenges are you likely to face in the next 5 years? What weaknesses in your character or capabilities could become liabilities under pressure? Start working on those things now, while the stakes are low and you have time to build competence. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming reliable. When people can count on you to show up prepared, focused, and capable, you become irreplaceable. The final code: confronting the enemy within. We've covered external presence, emotional control, strategic relationships, and continuous improvement. But there's one more element that separates true warriors from everyone else. It's the most difficult, the most uncomfortable, and the most transformative. Code number 7, the internal reckoning. Every person has demons. Fear, doubt, shame, anger, addiction, procrastination, whatever form they take, they're always there, waiting for a moment of weakness. Most people spend their entire lives running from these internal enemies. They distract themselves with work, entertainment, relationships, substances, anything to avoid sitting alone with their own thoughts. Leonidas took the opposite approach. He went toward the darkness. He spent time in solitude, confronting every fear, every doubt, every weakness, not to torture himself, but to understand himself. He knew that any internal enemy he refused to face would eventually sabotage him at the worst possible moment. This is the hardest work you'll ever do, and the most important. It requires sitting with discomfort, looking at your patterns of self-sabotage, acknowledging the ways you've hurt people you care about, facing the gap between who you are and who you want to be. But here's what happens when you do this work. You become unshakable. When someone tries to trigger your insecurities, they can't, because you've already examined those insecurities and made peace with them. When external circumstances try to derail you, they can't, because you've built internal stability that doesn't depend on external validation. This isn't therapy or self-help. It's warrior training for your psyche. You're not trying to eliminate your shadows. You're learning to dance with them. You're integrating every part of yourself so that nothing can be used against you. The integration, living the code. These 7 principles aren't separate techniques. They're an integrated system. Your external presence, codes 1-3, creates space for your internal development, codes 4-7. Your internal strength supports your external effectiveness. Everything works together. When you master your gaze, your posture, and your strategic mindset, people start taking you seriously. When you control your emotions, build strong alliances, and continuously improve your capabilities, you become formidable. When you face your inner demons and integrate your shadow, you become unbreakable. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. It's about developing the kind of strength that doesn't need to prove itself because it simply is. The modern application. Leonidas lived 2,500 years ago, but human nature hasn't changed. People still test boundaries. Bullies still seek easy targets. Manipulators still look for emotional buttons to push. The tools have evolved, but the game remains the same. Whether you're dealing with a difficult boss, a toxic relationship, online harassment, or just your own internal resistance to growth, these codes apply. They're not about becoming aggressive or dominant. They're about becoming centered, prepared, and unshakable. The person who embodies these principles doesn't need to fight because conflicts resolve themselves in their presence. They don't need to prove their worth because their value is self-evident. They don't need external validation because their identity comes from within. This is what Leonidas understood that most people miss. True strength isn't about defeating others. It's about becoming someone who can't be defeated. Not because you're invulnerable to pain, but because you've learned to transform pain into wisdom. The choice before you. Every day, you have a choice. You can live reactively, letting circumstances and other people determine your emotional state and your responses. You can hope that things will get easier, that people will be kinder, that life will require less of you, or you can choose the warrior's path. You can take responsibility for your presence, your responses, your relationships, and your development. You can face your demons instead of feeding them. You can become the kind of person who makes everyone around them stronger simply by being in the room. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Every day you practice these codes, you become a little more unshakable. Every time you choose response over reaction, you build emotional muscle. Every moment you spend preparing instead of procrastinating, you increase your chances of success when it matters. But here's the brutal truth. Most people will read these principles, nod in agreement, and then change absolutely nothing about their lives. They'll find excuses. They'll say they don't have time. They'll convince themselves that their situation is different, that these ancient principles don't apply to their modern problems. They'll wait for the right moment to start, which never comes. Don't be most people. The warriors throughout history, from Leonidas to modern-day Navy SEALs, all understood one fundamental truth. There is no perfect time to begin. There's only now. The moment you start implementing these codes, even imperfectly, you begin separating yourself from the crowd of people who live their entire lives in reaction mode. Consider this. What would happen if you committed to just one of these principles for the next 30 days? What if you focused solely on maintaining steady eye contact in every interaction, or practiced perfect posture during every meeting, or responded to every provocation with calm deliberation instead of emotional reactivity? Even one consistent change would begin rewiring your neural pathways and shifting how others perceive and treat you. Leonidas didn't become legendary because he was born special. He became legendary because he chose every single day to live by a code that demanded the best of him. That code is available to you right now. The question isn't whether it works. History has already proven that. The question is whether you'll commit to it. The battles you're facing today aren't that different from the ones Leonidas faced. The stakes might be different, but the principles remain the same. You can continue being pushed around by circumstances and other people's agendas, or you can develop the kind of inner strength that transforms everything around you. The choice is yours, but choose quickly while you still have the luxury of choice. Because in this life, you're either growing stronger or growing weaker. There is no standing still. Welcome to the path of the modern warrior. It's not easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. And on the other side of this discipline lies something most people never experience: true freedom. The freedom that comes from knowing that whatever life throws at you, you're ready for it. That's the legacy of Leonidas. Not just courage in the face of death, but strength in the face of life. And it's waiting for anyone brave enough to claim it. The daily practice. This isn't theory, it's a way of life. Start tomorrow. Check your posture when you wake up. Make eye contact during your first conversation. Breathe deeply before responding to stress. Help someone without expecting anything in return. Spend 10 minutes in silence, facing whatever thoughts arise. These small acts, repeated daily, compound into extraordinary transformation. Not overnight, but inevitably. Just like Leonidas, you'll find that external challenges become less threatening as your internal foundation becomes more solid. The beauty of this system is its scalability. You don't need to transform overnight. You don't need to become a different person by next week. You just need to be 1% better today than you were yesterday. Master one principle at a time. Perfect one behavior before moving to the next. Build your warrior foundation brick by brick, habit by habit. Track your progress. Notice when you catch yourself slouching and correct it immediately. Celebrate when you maintain eye contact during a difficult conversation. Acknowledge when you respond calmly to provocation instead of reacting emotionally. These small victories accumulate into massive personal transformation. Remember, Leonidas wasn't built in a day. His legendary discipline came from thousands of ordinary moments where he chose the harder path, where he practiced when no one was watching, where he faced his fears instead of avoiding them, where he did what needed to be done, not what felt good in the moment. Your transformation will follow the same pattern. Ordinary moments, extraordinary choices, compound results. The warrior's path isn't about reaching a destination. It's about becoming the kind of person who can handle any destination. And that journey begins with a single step, taken with courage, toward the person you're capable of becoming. Your battles are waiting. Your potential is calling. The only question is, will you answer?